right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Earn Playbook. We're super excited for today's topic. As you know, everybody and their mother is talking about entrepreneurship. Every time I'm online, I see something about quitting your 9 to 5, or people just wanting to be an entrepreneur. So today we're going to ask the question nobody actually wants to sit down with, and that is entrepreneurship actually right for you? And right for you, not just for likes or for for content or for Instagram, but like, is it right for you? Are you actually solving a problem? But before we get into that, I want to just check in with my wonderful co-hosts, Kojo and Jeff, see how you guys are doing, see how your summer has been coming along. Jeff, how are you? Talk to us.
No, thank you, Steph. So far this summer has been good. It's just that it's been short-lived.
Yes.
Sometimes I just want the summer to keep going on and on and on, but it's part of the four seasons that we do have over here.
Mhm.
But so far it's been good. We are blessed, and I'm pretty sure Kojo and you two are also doing well. You guys are blessed, and
Yes.
I'm hyped for you guys.
Thank you. Same. Kojo, how are you?
Yeah, it's been a good summer. It's been beautiful. A lot of the World Cup took the most parts of the summer, which was nice to experience. Honestly, got to spend a good time with friends. So now we are back into it. Yeah, let's go.
I love it. Same. World Cup was great. I was realized like, man, I haven't really watched TV all week because there's no World Cup to watch. But it's all good. So again, today we are going to cover what's we were talking about is really entrepreneurship. We want to talk about the myths, the reasons people start businesses, the reasons people shouldn't, and really talking about the sacrifices that nobody posts about, what success actually looks like, and whether you can build something on the side with a full time job. I know that's a big question for people. And then what's the difference between a business and a side hustle? And really, at the end, we want you to walk away with should you have your own business, and really deciding where you should land. Kojo, tell me, what is something you're excited to talk about today as related to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, today I think the premise of the conversation is where you started from, right? We're trying to figure out what spurs people into getting into entrepreneurship, if it's the right choice for people, why it's actually booming right now. Talking about um, different people, sort of now people are more excited to do it. It doesn't sound as scary. It doesn't feel like a select few doing it. More people are getting into it.
Mm,
But we also want to understand if it's actually the right fit for everyone, right? It takes a lot. So, and not necessarily to say everyone has to do it. So we are trying to really understand the why of entrepreneurship.
mm.
From there, then we'll pick it up from there and see where the other topics to lead us.
Awesome. I love it. Jeff, how about you? What are you excited to talk about?
Yeah, for me, it's also same. I'm really excited about entrepreneurship, because I feel like a lot of people really want to get into it, but they don't really know how to start,
Mhm.
what skills they need to learn, how they can really maximize their potential when it comes to getting into entrepreneurship. Some people think that it is a very difficult task to embark on, but also that is why we are here to learn, and I'm very, very excited to hear from you guys, especially you guys being in the industry, knowing or having businesses running. It will be a very good tool to share with, also for me to learn and also our audience to learn. So yeah, that is what I'm excited about today.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Love it. All right. Well, let's get into it. I wanted to start with the numbers. I looked up on Sellers Commerce, which really talks about it's the United States small business. Sellers Commerce, which has a lot of data around small businesses, which I suggest for those who are interested in starting a small business to take a look at this website, particularly as you're building out your business plan. But apparently, there are 36.2 million small businesses in the US. And the average age, which I actually found interesting, is 42 for founders. And that's typically, or in the past, it was like about 34, they said.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, that's interesting that it's like, yeah, 42. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was much younger, but that's pretty cool. And then women are now about 41.5% of all businesses in the US. So that's a huge shift from even a decade ago. So I thought that was pretty significant. So I think one of the first things we want to get into is really talking about the myths. But Kojo, for you, and I know you're a business owner, I'm a business owner. It does feel like at the specific moment in time, like everyone has a side business or they have a Shopify store, or they have a coaching program. Why do you think like now so many people have businesses?
No, that was an interesting point. I think um, in the past, different reasons have kind of contributed to reasons why people always wanted to get into entrepreneurship, right? Like, for instance, people always wanted entrepreneurship for, to have flexibility and balance, right? People wanted free time. They wanted to work on their own hours. Some people wanted to change the status quo if something wasn't working for them and they felt they could do it differently. They wanted to get into entrepreneurship. Also, sometimes people want to start, they have a side project, right? Someone does painting for fun. Now they want to start, selling their paintings, and it starts booming, and they're like, let me create an LLC for that. But I think there are so many different reasons why in the past people wanted to start businesses, and that hasn't truly changed. I think the entry to barrier is what has really changed, right?
Mm,
So in the past, when people wanted to start businesses, they had to, if you start, you have to open a website, run ads, like do all
mm,
these different things. And even just that initial cost of doing these things were very expensive,
I
and it
agree.
prevented people from starting, right? Now, what we've seen is during COVID, right? So
Mhm.
one thing that happened was a lot of people lost their jobs. So that also spurred that sort
Good
of
point.
small a revolution where people being at home figured, okay, now that I'm home, what can I do? Coupled with the boom of social media, figured this is where we can start monetizing, right? So that turned into something else. But I think the one greatest single factor right now in our current age is AI, right? Generative AI has made things much faster. You can deploy websites in a matter of minutes. We are talking in about 5 to 10 minutes. You can start a website. Literally, you go to Replit, you go to Lovable. You can even use Claude Code. Type in what you exactly want, and you have a website popping. This at first, if you recall, you have to hit up an IT guy who is going to tell you all these things and tell you that this is what you need. Then you
Mhm.
tell him all the specs you need, and he's going to quote you about $3,000, $4,000. You pay this money, it comes back with mistakes. You have to go through different iterations. So that alone just deterred people. So they're like, I'm not going to do it, right? Um, the other part too is even opening the business, they didn't even know the questions to ask. What do I do? Who do I ask? Who do I talk to? It's either you're talking to your fellow entrepreneur or going to, your town halls and actually talking to
Yeah.
individuals. Now you can actually prompt in chat. Fine, true, you can go and Google and
Mm,
still Google these things. But Google and the prompts in chats actually work a bit different because the answers you are getting is very rapid from some of
mm,
these LLM
mm,
services that we have. So they come very fast. You get the info very fast, and it's a step-by-step breakdown, which literally spells it out for you. That makes it easy. The other part too is, the operational side of it. When people open businesses, it required a certain big overhead cost, right? Say you needed someone to help you with running your books, building a business plan, right? Doing all these things has been accelerated and
mhm,
also cuts
mhm.
down. That overhead has been cut down with AI. So we cannot emphasize the greatness of AI, and Claude for small businesses, it's also really good that it does your QuickBooks, it does so many other things
Mhm. Mhm.
that makes it so easy for new people who have just an idea to
Right.
start a business, right?
Yeah.
So all these previous factors I listed are true, and they still hold true today, because if I truly want time for myself and to be my own boss, as 47% of business owners, they say that, why did you start a business? They're like, I just wanted to be my own boss. That's literally what 47% of
Yeah,
people
that's
said.
true.
For them, now they want to be their own boss, but they had all these barriers that have been broken down. And that's one of the biggest reasons why, we're getting a booming, entrepreneurship and everything happening.
Right. No, I agree, particularly around the like resources when you mentioned talking about like resources, because actually back in 2004, I wanted to start my business that I have now, and I remember doing a business plan. And at that time, there was no social media, like internet
Right.
wasn't like really a big thing. And I remember I just finished undergrad, and I remember doing this business plan, and I was going to need like $10,000 just for the brick and mortar store, because again, online shopping was not a thing.
It wasn't, right?
Yeah. And so I was like, what? I can't afford to do that. Like, I just finished school. Like, there's no way. So I just put it on the shelf. But that's such a good point. Like, now there's just such the access. It's much easier than it was before.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's move into the biggest myths. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to talk to us, lead us in this section to really talk about yeah, some mythbusters, what the people often think being a
Yes.
business
Yes.
is. Yeah,
No, I know
go
that
for it.
there's a lot of myths out there, right? And I'll be throwing some between you and Kojo so that you guys can answer for our audience to listen. So the first one that I'm gonna start with, right? Um, and I'm gonna start with you, Kojo. Do you need a genius idea that nobody ever thought of, or do you need a genius idea? Because that is what people actually do think. Oh, I need that aha moment. I need that one specific genius idea. Kojo, what do you say about that?
Not necessarily. I think ideas are great, but I saw this meme on Instagram where a certain business owner said basically, um, while he was working, he started a new idea, a certain gap in the market. And while he was working, he realized why there's a gap in the market. Basically, it is very difficult to execute, right? Ideas are great. Ideas are, but once you start implementing or executing this idea, you start realizing that execution can be very, very hard, right?
Yep, that's true.
So I think that's one of the things that makes us start thinking about, okay, it's not necessarily coming down to ideas, but also execution and what's repeatable and what has worked before. One thing we know is boring businesses, which they talk about, is an idea that exists. Laundromats, HVAC, auto shops, all these things are ideas that are not new, right?
Yep, yes, you're
However,
right.
they are not new, but they are still thriving decades on. And that just goes to show us that, these ideas have been taken into a certain different, probably new market or different strategy or something, and it starts booming again. And it's just the same thing that you've taken and you're just repeating it again. So it doesn't necessarily just come down to idea. Idea is good, but idea isn't everything. So
Okay.
so there's this serial entrepreneur called Bill Gross, right? And basically, I remember watching this YouTube video, and I even talked to Steph about it one time. And he was basically saying what were the biggest reasons why a business actually thrived, right? It came down to, I think it was team, it was timing, it was idea, and it was funding, right? Guess which one was the biggest reason why businesses thrived? Like if you started a business, why it did well?
I'll probably
Anyone?
say the
Anyone?
team. I'll say the team.
Stephanie, which one would you go for? Have we talked about this if you remember?
I do remember
Do you remember
team.
the answer?
I don't
Team?
remember the answer, but I'm going with team.
Team? You're both wrong. It was timing. Timing was the
Oh,
single
yeah,
Timing.
that's right. Time in the yeah,
time.
yeah.
Timing was the single factor, because a typical example is YouTube, right? Before YouTube, there was one company that started the same thing 3 years before, actually about 4 years before. By the time the internet was so new, people weren't really, really using it, right?
Mhm.
But however, when the internet boomed right after the dot-com, bubble, all that stuff boomed, and YouTube came, the timing just lined up. So that just goes to show again. Now, this is just one example that I'm just using, right? Not to say it goes for everything. Some cases the idea works, but it just goes to, there are so many factors that actually makes a business go well. Funding is one, right? A team is also great, but I think team came second, idea was third or something like that. And funding, they're like once those three work, you always find someone to give you money. So funding was never a big issue, right? So that is just the mentality behind it. And so idea is a great thing, but it's not everything.
Kojo. So let me ask you, Kojo, a quick question, right? So you are typically saying that recycling of ideas, right, is what is going on now, because you listed about people getting into
No, I'm
auto
saying
shops.
recycling ideas. I wouldn't necessarily say what is going on now. It is more like what is one of the things you can do, right?
Okay.
It's to say, you know, all these different companies that, you know, we kind of mentioned are things that people still do and have thriving businesses.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. But in as much as people are following these trends, it's working for some people and it's also not working for some. So could there be a reason that sometimes a person would open up an auto shop? They would do so well, right, in this particular business. Another person will open the same auto shop, right, and it wouldn't work out for them. So could there be certain instances where it might work out for people or it wouldn't work out for the other party?
Of course, of course. I mean, we could get into that, and probably that'll take the whole podcast, right? Because that's a whole separate topic. I think, and execution is a big one. As you mentioned, timing is a big one. Maybe that's not the right time to open that business in the community you're in.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe you're not getting good funding. Maybe the funding you're getting is bad. Maybe your business strategy is bad. Maybe you're not running more ads. Maybe your marketing strategy is bad. There are so many different things that could. So it could be the same business and the same model, but the execution, if it's different or the strategy is different, you know, or and there's, you know, those little factors become very different, you're going to have different results, and that's expected, right? So it's not one size fits all. A business to always mirror the founder. It mirrors the founder most of the time because you set a culture, like even the business culture. The culture you set in your business can even determine if you're going to be successful or not, right? Like if the founder has any drive or not, it becomes very difficult. So I think, again, we could go in and speak to that topic in so many different ways, but just to kind of just summarize that answer for you, yes, the reasons are very um, 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 diverse. There are different reasons why that can happen, and as I mentioned, it can be timing, funding, strategy, so many things that can, you know, contribute to why one business failed and one succeeded.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, man. So let's get into our second myth, right? That we do have. People actually think that once you open up your own business, you will have so much freedom. Stephanie, can you talk more about this?
No, that's such a good question because that is not true. I mean, I think you have maybe you have the ability to be like more innovative, but I think the challenge can be particularly when you're starting out. You're often, if you don't have a team, you're often a solopreneur. And so that means that you are marketing, you are HR, you are communications, you are the designer. And in my case, my first business is a clothing and accessories brand. And so that means I'm doing everything from top to bottom, from design to accounts receivable. And so I don't have as much freedom because I have more demand. So, where in a larger company, there'd be different departments and there'd be someone on top of each department. It's just me. While I do am growing my team now, and then with my consulting business too, same thing. So I think you have a little like it's pretty much it stops with you in terms of decision making and like being able to cast a vision, but you also, so I think there's freedom in that, right? Like you know your vision, you know where you're going, but you also have to do the work to make sure it gets done. And that's where the time constraint often comes because it's you
I
unless you
think I
have
think
a
the
team.
biggest one, just to kind of just add to that, is the flexibility that comes with it. Because you can essentially work some odd hours that you feel is actually contributing to the business, and sometimes you can do the business when you want to, right? Albeit, you know, it might not thrive, but if there's some trouble that you're facing, like for instance, you're doing clothing and there's an emergency, you need to be there. but you can regulate your time much more appropriately, set your meeting. It's very nuanced where there's some flexibility, right? That you control more as opposed to, you have a boss who is directing you on specific times that you do. However, to Stephanie's point, like in terms of freedom and time, is always around the clock. You just control where that time goes to. Honestly, it's because
Exactly.
it's around the clock. But once you grow, and there are different ways, maybe partnerships, funding where you can hire people, like different, and we can get into that later. You start seeing how you can buy your time back.
Got
Yeah,
it.
I
Got it.
agree.
Got it.
And I also think it's how do you define freedom, right? Like it couldn't be like for me, I always want like freedom, like I want like for me freedom is autonomy, right? And it's flexibility. Like that's how I define freedom. So I think it is a little nuance and
I
how do
agree.
you define, yeah, freedom? And to Kojo's point too, like, yeah, like you're around the clock, but you decide what clock it is. But I think people have to define for them like what is freedom. And I always want to
Freedom.
balance it
Yeah.
out that entrepreneurship is good and so is having a 9 to 5. It's just like what is freedom for you? What's good for you?
Yes, and I think also, right, to your point, right, freedom can mean a whole different things to other people. But I think most people don't want to be stuck with the traditional route about the 9 to 5, where they want to try to set up their own time, be their own boss, work from 11 to 7 or 11 to whatever, right? Not necessarily being the 9 to 5. And I think that is where sometimes people equate that freedom from, that I want to do on my own terms. So yeah, that would lead us to our third myth, right? And this is for you, Kojo. When you're making money in businesses, are you all set once the money comes flowing? Is that the green flag that you're all set? You are there. You've reached.
When you say all set, I guess it's a bit different. It's the question is, what was the initial goal starting the business, right? I think that's the first question. So, I mean, when starting a business, if you started a business to be a cash flowing business where that replaces your certain income, being all set is good. Being cash flowing and getting money is good. That's exactly where you want to be, right? However, like if it's a business and you decided to sell the business and you're cash flowing, but you are riding the business, but you want to exit at some point, are you still all set? You're not truly all set if you can't exit the business, right? Because if your face and your brand is attached to the business, it is difficult to sell it. No, it's hard to sell it, right? So it depends what each and every one person's goal is, and it's not a big umbrella. As you know, the reason why anyone started a business, as we mentioned today, is there is like 7 8 different reasons, right? It probably isn't even just the cash flow, it's buying the time. So maybe they are cash flowing but they don't have time. Truly they are still not all set, right? So I think defining what that success looks like to them is okay. And for me, I think I'll keep it to a personal part so that is my reality, right? I can't speak for everyone else. I think for me, the major reason why I get more thrill doing my own thing, um, I think just working on myself, even if it's cash flowing or not, I get more thrill doing it. I get more excited doing it. Even if I see one order go through, I get a call making an inquiry about something. I'm so giddy. A year in, like I'm so happy because it's like I we built this and we are getting that from it. And it's a bit different when you don't buy, like just starting from the ground up and you seeing traction is very exciting. And I think that high is what I really enjoy, right? The money part is a sub part of it. Of course, it's not sub, it's an integral part of it. Don't get me wrong, but I want to be happy doing the business and also having the flexibility of my own time and seeing that my vision is the one coming to pass.
Yes, yes, and I think yeah, it will make you happy because starting something from the ground and actually seeing it being fruitful, regardless, even if it's bringing in money or not, I think you can boldly or boastfully say that this is mine, this is my product, and I have faith that it is working out.
Truly, that is true, but I still want the money. Yeah.
I know, I know. All right, so let's go
Like
to
that's nice, but if the money is not coming, I'm not that. Yeah, nah, we're stressed.
No, the money will come. The money will come once you keep doing what you're doing. I'm pretty sure the money will follow suit. So our fourth myth, right? And Stephanie, I think you might get a kick out of this. So the people actually think that entrepreneurs are just built differently. They are a special kind of breed, special risk tolerant people. What do you say about this?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because I do think you do need to have a high risk tolerance. I do agree with that, but I also do think it's about drive. It's about like where you are in life too, and most entrepreneurs like they started because they're trying to solve a problem, and so maybe less about personality and more about where you are in your life and being able to have the mindset to like start and sustain a business. I was looking at SCORE, which is something that I suggest all entrepreneurs look at. It's you can find them in like your local neighborhoods. Are all over the country in the United States, and it's essentially retired entrepreneurs that provide mentorship. They have different resources, but one of the things that they talked about that most entrepreneurs have is that they're really good at like communicating effectively and being consistent. And so I think not that entrepreneurs have like a personality type. I think personality types do help, but I do think being able to be consistent, like having a routine, the persistence, positivity, like there's certain characteristics that help you in entrepreneurship, but I don't think like, oh, one person can't do it over the other. I think it's really comes down to perseverance because there are ups and there are lows and lower lows. But are you able
And
to?
Yeah. Hmm.
bottom lows.
Yes. Are you able to like persevere and how do you use your network, right? How are you able to listen? Like who are you surrounding yourself with and being able to stay current on like events in your industry, learning to make quick decisions. So I think there's certain characteristics that you need that can help you be a successful entrepreneur.
Awesome, awesome. That's perfectly said. So yeah, just for the sake of time, right? We will just move into our next segment, which is why people start businesses and why they shouldn't. So Kojo, right? What actually gets someone to take the leap? The leap of faith. That why should they open up a business?
Um, no, that's good. I mean, um, we kind of hinted at a bit on it in the beginning of the session, right? But the why people start businesses, I guess I'll start from my end first, then we can speak to why actually started, and we can speak to the
Can
generic
you
one.
tell us about your business? I realize we didn't even do a proper introduction.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for if it comes to what I've started over time, that is a lot. So, but if it comes to the current ones that I actually have, is a business called for Sans Cleaning that I started with a group of friends. We are 4 people, and basically everyone has their own division they run independently, and we basically serve the greater Boston area with prime cleaning services, and also for residential apartments and homes, and also for restaurants, right? And this business was started last year, and right now we are a year in. It's been an exciting journey. It's taught us a lot. It's very bootstrapped. So we started from the ground up. Why did I start it? The reason why I started this was honestly the business, if I'm being very truthful, it was my learning curve, right? I wanted to truly learn. And because I remember every time I talked about business, I always wanted to, study more books, read more books, do more things. And people kept telling me the best way is to do it, right? So I felt it was a gap. And I also feel the cleaning industry is not too formalized. I feel it's slightly chaotic. For instance, if you want a cleaner, you hit up someone, and your tia, or an abuela, someone, you have a nice woman come and clean your place. Like it's still informal. Like you don't have it too formalized like other industries. and I felt that was a gap that could be really cleaned up. So that was the inspirations, right? And I felt, moving into the place I was moving into, the unit I was moving into, I realized that with the different apartment buildings and the different condo complexes, it's easier as professional people. Cleaning was difficult, so I was like, okay, we could do this so that it helps people. Not to get into the weeds of it. However, that was the motivation behind it. We did it, bootstrapped, figured out a lot. We are still learning. We are still kind of pressure testing each and every single angle, each and every single angle of the business, and making sure that everything can work before we further pour money into it. It's been good. It's been a journey, as Stephanie mentioned. There's been low lows, and we are still learning. A good part of it is I wouldn't necessarily say I did it to use that to break away from my main job as I work as an engineer, but it was mainly to learn. The second one I have is another business. It's an engineering consulting one, which the goal is to make it become an engineering firm, and it's Terraflux, right? So that one we basically offer engineering services, and it's mainly me, and whereby I do some engineering talks for people, and the idea is I dive more into the renewable energy sector, and I want to grow that more. I want to do that more, and hopefully take that to Ghana. That is a much, much bigger vision, and that's the main vision, and which we'll talk about. Stephanie knows about Terraflux, but I'm not going to dive into it too much. So these are the two businesses I have. Coming back to it, and we'll come to Steph's part. So as you can already tell, mine is the gap, passion, a learning curve, a very different reason. However, when I'm looking at a live plan article that they wrote and why people started their businesses, and again, being the boss contributed to 47% of why people wanted to be a business owner. People
Yep.
want the flexibility and balance, right? I'll say I probably fall into that category. I realized that I like to work. I actually really like to work. I think one of my hobbies is working, right? So, but the problem I find is
Me
once I
too.
work and I
Mhm.
work for people, I get tired working for people because I'm like, why am I pouring all this energy into someone's vision? Why not do it my own self? Right. So I'd rather do it for my own self, and that's what gets me excited. So the flexibility, being my own boss, I probably fall into that category. I don't really, there's a challenge status quo, turning a side project into something more. That's another reason. Support community, non-profits, and other social efforts. Create generational wealth. I think for me, it was never truly about that. It's a if it comes out of that, that is nice, and I hope it will be able to become something like that. So we'll strive for it to become something like that. But that wasn't the premise of why we started this, right? And the last one is, as I mentioned, freedom to pursue your passion. My passion will be Terraflux, but Four Sons was a different goal, and it's also been a fantastic, enjoyable goal. Steph, what was the reason why you started your business?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was twofold. It was like the love of fashion, um, and it
So
was
the passion part.
yeah, so it was the passion part definitely, and like impact, like how could I use business to make social impact, and then the freedom part too, like being able to work for myself. Like my grandfather was an entrepreneur, so was my mom. Like I really saw that modeled for me early and how you could use business to make impact. And so I knew from an early age I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Just depend. I wasn't sure what, but yeah, I think for me it's definitely like the passion, the impact, um, and the freedom.
Yeah, one thing I didn't see on the website, but I think actually goes to it, and Steph, you pointed it out, was it's what we saw growing up. My mom is an entrepreneur, my big brother is an entrepreneur, and I realized that all people around me, most of them were entrepreneurs, right? So it was
Mhm.
hard seeing them do, standard 9 to 5. So it was around the clock, calling, doing their own thing. And I didn't realize that I innately picked up that, and I prefer that, and I enjoy that as opposed to working standardly. But however, working standardly, W2s, amazing, 9 to 5s. It's
Mhm.
been great. Don't get me wrong. Hey, we loved it. I still love it. It does this thing. You log
Yeah.
in, you log out.
Yeah.
Beautiful. No one should come and stress you out about anything else. But there's a side of it that I also enjoy, and I'm testing both out, and we see where the wind takes us. Right.
Yes. All right. So let's quickly flip, right? With what are some of the wrong reasons why people get into businesses?
Yeah, I would say I don't know if it's necessarily. I would say that I think people get maybe it's the wrong mindset. So it's like, oh, I'll start a business, I'll make a lot of money, but there's not an actual plan towards like your growth trajectory. You don't have an exit plan. Like if you're just doing it for oh because it looks good, it sounds good, that may not be the best reason to start because like have you like are you actually solving a problem, like is there a market for it, like who are you launching your product or service to, is it actually needed? So I think people need to really think through like is this just to say I'm a business owner because it sounds good and everyone else is doing it because you think you're going to make money? Because when we were preparing, one of the stats that I saw from Babson College, it talked about how 82% of startups survive their first year, but only half make it to the 5 year mark, right? So that says a lot, that it's not all rainbows and butterflies, because essentially half the businesses that exist today, statistically, they won't exist in 5 years. So you have to have a real concrete why to start your business and a clear trajectory of how you're going to grow, how you're going to attain customers. And again, that's not to scare people off. It's meant to make you ask, like, am I doing this for a reason strong enough to survive, like, when it's hard? Because it's going to be hard, not to be like a downer. But if anything in life, there's ups and downs, and you have to have a strong why, a strong like reason as to why I'm doing this, and how that's going to sustain you when there's like downtime.
Yes, that is very true. That is very true because sometimes I feel like people also business hop. As we know, there's jobs hop. People also do business hop. What they hear one wave, they want to jump on it, and then once it dies down, they want to move, quit whatever they were doing, and move on to the next one. So I think it's a very good thing if you really know your why and if you know the long term plan. How am I going to survive the next 5 years, 10 years? And I think that speaks a lot of volume to what you just stated.
But this is another thing that we might get into another day. There's also the sunken cost fallacy,
Oh
right?
yes, let's talk about
When you should know when to call it quits as a business owner. Because Jeff, true, people might be business hopping, but for some, it's for good reason. They need to pivot, right? Because the business is
Yeah,
just
yes,
not
yes,
working, right?
yes, yep, you're right.
And and if you don't pivot, you're actually still failing. You keep pouring money into it, but you feel like you've invested so much that is about to boom soon. It's like that picture we see the guy digging for diamond, and as
And
soon
then,
as he
yep,
was about
yep.
to strike, he turns around. That's how most of the time it feels like, right? Like you're like, it's coming. You're just there.
Let me just hold on. Let me
Let me
just
just
hold on.
hold on.
Yeah,
And before you blink, you're at 5 years and millions of dollars in debt,
hmm
right? So it's also recognizing when you think it's becoming a sunken cost fallacy. And that, I'll be honest, I don't have the answer to it.
either.
Lots of people don't. Maybe the experts,
Personal.
we bring them, they know, because you got to know by yourself, right? Like when you think you've poured enough and you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to give you a go till the end of the year. If it doesn't work, I just close it down. And I've seen people do it and they do it smartly. They're like, we're losing money. Immediately they just close it down. They don't even waste time. And I think that I actually really, really, and it's recognizing that early, I think is also a skill.
yes, yeah, that's true. So I think people actually want to put in their all. Some people will actually go to the extent of quitting their main jobs and then just pouring everything into a business. Um, do you think it's a bright idea, or to just throw out everything on the wall and just say, you know what, I'm going all in. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't
I'll
work
be
out.
honest. I know some might think differently, but I can be like that.
Okay, okay,
I,
okay.
I'll be honest. I'm not saying it's the right way to go about it now, but I also believe, but the truth of the matter is, I think it depends on the stage of life where you are in, right?
Yes, yeah. You're
Because
right.
if you
You're
are,
right.
if you have a family of three or something, and that's you are the major provider,
You
and you
cannot
go do
gamble.
that, everyone is going to come for you. But if you're young and you live at home and you don't really have anything going, why not? Because the truth is, it's time versus money. Like, if you have and focus, right? Like, if you have all the energy, time, and focus to point to one thing, I'd rather that pour it into that and focus on that, right? Rather than trying to do so many other things.
Yes. You're right. You're right. And yeah, and I think people should know the big why, and I think that comes a long way. So wrapping up, right? We just want to talk about the sacrifices that nobody talks about, right? With Kojo, what are some of the mistakes or the sacrifices that you've actually poured in the back end that people don't see?
That is a great question. Maybe is the flow of how I went about it. Is again, will I have done it the same way? Probably, because I truly do. Hindsight is 2020. Um, but maybe I would have one thing I would have actually focused on more is to focus on a bigger nest egg before coming into it. Because what people don't tell you is, and they do tell you actually, doesn't they do tell you is the sacrifices. One is financial. You will pour your time and money and energy into it, so make sure that you are real covered. And I think that's helpful. So that's one of the things that I would advise, that if you're getting into it, if you have a good nest egg, especially in a certain stage of your life, you should really think about that, right? So that's one of the things. Another sacrifice is, remember, if you're going to go all in, you become a maniac. That you would one part of your life is going to go down, and it's typically your social life.
Yes. Yep.
You barely hang out with friends. You barely hang out like other people the way you used to, because you are so laser focused in trying to make something work, and even your relationships can suffer. So you need to, especially in the beginning, so you need to understand that this is what it's going to take, and this is what you need to do to make it survive. If people, and I'll be honest with you, if people tell you differently, it's because they've not really tried it to the maximum. Like, anyone, probably 90% of people that I would find to be entrepreneurs coming from the ground up, they pour real time and energy into it, because it would just suck you in. It's like, it's inevitable. Otherwise, imagine you have a business and you're not into it, it's going to fail. How do you know it's even
Yes.
working, right? So
Yeah.
you are so into it, you can be consumed by it, and it happens all the time. So yeah, your social life, relationships might be able to might suffer, and in some worst cases even be sacrificed, it, just because you're trying to be successful. And you have to figure out where that sliding scale is, to make sure that you don't give those things up, because it's very important. Relationships are important,
Yes, you're
with
right.
both friends and family.
Yes, you're right. So we'll be almost wrapping up, and I have one last question for Steph, right? Stephanie, do you think everyone should become a business owner?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Um, I can't answer that. I think
Is it too generalized?
yes, I
Can I
think
help you?
yes.
No.
No.
Yeah,
No,
not
I think
everyone should be a
people,
business owner.
yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think
you
so.
have to answer the questions for yourself. Like, number one, are you solving a problem? Are you meeting a need? And are you ready to take on the level of time, like the sacrifice, the time, the finance piece, the mental load of it? And not everyone can handle that. And so, like, if you can't answer yes to those questions, then no, you probably shouldn't do that. And I think that there is nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. Like, for a long time, I had a 9 to 5 and I had my business because I loved what I did with my 9 to 5. And I also loved my business. And I think that's okay. So I think it really comes down to what is what's your why? Like, I know we've talked about it a lot, but like, what is, like, why would you be starting this business? Like, is it solving a need? Are you ready for the sacrifice, the time, the financial commitment that it will take, and be able to go through the ups and downs? And I feel like if you can answer that question and like you're ready, then go for it. But if you can't, don't do it because it's
Yes.
not. It can be glamorized. It can definitely be glamorized.
I was just gonna say someone's true passion might also be a 9 to 5.
Yes,
Yes,
You know,
yes,
yes,
like
yes.
like
I love
is
it.
outside of even the work ethic, all the things, the mentality, like someone's true passion might be they just want to log in and log off. Like
Which
they
there's nothing wrong with it
I
also.
mean, there's
You know.
it's an amazing thing. I wish, you have a high paying job, or what, it probably isn't even, it probably isn't even high paying. It probably even gives you more time with your family, right? Some
Hmm.
people work government jobs and it barely any hours, like even the library or something. And you're enjoying your time. Someone works in the library, they get to read all day and they love reading, and they don't have to pay for it. Like like you work your hours, you get your money. Why do you need to go and stress yourself out? Right. So some people truly enjoy it, and I love it. Right. So even, yeah, the money part is good. The passion or what other people to want to pursue also speaks to it. And the drive, if you don't have the mentality to work, to Steph's point, like, you probably shouldn't just do it, right? Like, don't say you hate your 9 to 5, so you're going to do entrepreneurship. It's probably harder,
Yeah.
honestly.
If anything, it's
Yes,
really
yeah,
about finding your calling, finding like your purpose for that season that you're in
correct.
for
That
your
is very
life.
true.
Yeah, because like
That
me,
is
I
very true.
love what I do outside of my business. I absolutely love it. So again, it's really just what
That
works.
is very true. And I just want to thank you guys for actually we talking about this, and to our audience, right? This is not a moment where we're trying to downplay your 9 to 5, or trying to highlight that you got to get into a business. It's not a one size fits all. We've actually seen high earners that do 9 to 5, and they are way okay. Their retirement portfolio is amazing. They are really okay. And we've actually also seen very, very rich entrepreneurs. So it works
and
on both
and,
both
and
sides.
very
And
poor ones too.
yes, and poor ones also on the spectrum, right? We've seen poor people on a 9 to 5, or poor entrepreneurs also doing their thing. So I think with what Steph said, you really got to know your calling for that particular time. And Kojo, you said this earlier in that discussion, that timing is very, very key. You don't just wake up saying that, you know what, I want to do this, and there needs to be a backing around you. There needs to be a whole lot of things that are working in the background for you to succeed. Either in a 9 to 5 or being an entrepreneur. So thank you guys for actually zoning in and then sharing your thoughts and inspirations also to our listeners. We really genuinely appreciate you too.
Of course,
Yeah, so
Steph.
Yep. Thanks, guys. So we'll be back next week. We'll continue our conversation on entrepreneur. Please continue to follow us, submit your questions. We're really excited about this topic and want to support you in your journey, whether it's entrepreneurship or it is continuing in your career.
Yep. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, guys. This was lovely.
awesome.
Talk to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.